My name is Ifeanyi Emmanuel Nsofor. I'm currently the Chief Executive Officer of Eden Solutions and Resources Limited, a human resource consulting firm with headquarters in Abuja. I actually studied estate management in University of Lagos several years ago, and I came out trying to get a job in that area, and it was not forthcoming. I was in Lagos, so I decided to come to Abuja. I came to Abuja also trying to find something to do, and I did everything you can think of legally, property and all the rest. And a time came when there was a client that needed property from us, you know, and I went to visit the client, and the client was in a property that she could not pay rent any further. So why we were invited was to discuss or to take for her to get another property because her lease had ended. So while talking with her, I saw that she was into artworks. She does artworks. And then she had furniture, that she was also retailing in the same place. I discovered that there was there was a clash in terms of the product. People always try to mix artworks with furniture. So I realized that there was a clash in terms of what our product offer. Now, I didn't come for that. I came for property. So I had to ask her, why do you want to live here? And she said, well, the business was not giving enough funds to pay for the rent, and she was looking for a cheaper location. And I looked at it and I looked at the work she was doing, and I discovered that she does paint very well. So I said to her, I'm surprised you're not being able to sell this paint. Well, she said people just come to buy furniture and all of that. So, and I advised her, that why not just focus on artwork? I mean, what you do is your talent. You can say it's a gift rather than just do everything. Because then in Abuja, this was the year 2002, everybody was selling furniture. They were bringing furniture into Nigeria. So she was trying to do the same thing. Left her gift and entered something because she felt it would sell better. So she blistered and removed the furniture and focused on her artwork. Within 2 weeks, something strange happened. All of a sudden, she started gaining a lot of interest, and mostly from the expatriate community, from the American embassy, from the UK, British Council. And that same month, the decision to leave the place was postponed. I mean, she canceled it because she had enough money to pay for the rent. And not even only that, before you know it, there was a hotel, a leading international hotel, the Sheraton Hotel, invited her to brand their entrance. Everything changed, and the very next month, she was able to pay for a place in the Nikon Hilton, and at that time when that was happening, I realized I was in the wrong profession because I was trying to do property because that's what I studied, and my dad owned a real estate firm, and I was trying to set up the Abuja branch, and I realized that I was in the wrong profession. I could, just from that discussion, there was a turnaround with this person, but I didn't have any information on what to do and how to go about it. So I still kept on trying to discover and all of that. And I started from nothing in the sense that there was no office, there was no company, there was nothing. So I just hung around her, and I was, coming to her place and, giving her advice on what to do. And that's, I believe, what happened from real estate to consulting. So my first recruitments were people that were friends, and I knew she needed people. I just met them and said, "Come, do you want a job?" And I called them. That was how I just brought them in, and that's how the idea of recruitment started. So that you could say that's how I began. But it was with that change of story, the business turnaround for that client that let me know that I could do better in consulting than just looking for a house and accommodation for people. I now realized in retrospect, much younger, let's say when I was in secondary school, it made me remember that I came for holiday one of those days from school and all of that, and I went to a shop to buy certain things. That was in Lagos, and I entered this woman's shop. Then I was just 12, 13 or something, that young, and I realized that the place was she had what she was selling here. The place was disorganized, and at that age, I'll go and meet her in the evening and tell her, no, madam, this thing can be better. And at that age, I was helping her to reorganize. So when that happened, I started, I went to school and I read estate management, but that was not my call. So from youth, there was that thing about trying to help people to improve in their business, So she helped me to rediscover myself. So I think I will definitely do what I was created to do. When I began this process of um, the consulting, one of those days I was trying to understand how to do it. Then in 2002, there were not many consultants in Abuja you could get as mentors. So one of those days, by inspiration, I went to a mall. Then it was Banex. Then that was the year 2002, so or 2003. They just set them up. I'm not sure the year, maybe 2003. And I was just walking, going through every shop. I love window shopping, so I was just going, checking. And I now happened to enter one shop then, and I saw this woman. Funny enough, she had just come in from the UK. She was about setting up a shop there, and she needed staff. So, the call of destiny, and it was like, do you know I was going to look for who will help me? I don't know anyone in Nigeria. I don't know anything. I said, I do consulting. Me, and she started talking to me, and I found out that from the UK where she was coming from, she worked with the local, they call them boroughs or so in London, that they support small businesses by mentoring and all of that. And I shared my story, my journey and everything with her. And she said, look, you know what? You'll be my first mentee here in Nigeria. And from that day, Miracle Anyamfe, that's her name, she now took me on as a pupil and began to mentor me, So I think that lady really turned around everything for me because I began to understand it, the global mindset. She took my mind from just trying to get people in the local business staff and all that to thinking globally. So I think that was that's one person that probably made it turn around in terms of my thinking and my business. One of the things that I suffered while I would say I learned, I wouldn't say I suffered, I learned while on this journey was never negotiate on the capacity of people you work with. Sometimes people get people to work with them on the basis of what they can afford. I would advise against that because I discovered that I've had in my journey with this business, I've had to work with several people, and for a period we suffered a high turnover of staff for a very long period, high turnover of staff. And that's because sometimes there was this issue of trying to just get people because they were available and they could be used for whatever. So I believe that then in future, I'll tell myself, rather than get someone permanently, I'll have arrangements where people come in. I engage them particularly for projects, like what we do now when we have projects, when we have jobs, we get people for projects and they do. But initially, when we began, when we get a job, we employ people because of that job. And because most of our jobs were project based, when that job is no more there, you find it difficult paying and then you get frustrated and you start pouring your frustration on the people and then you have a turnover and it continues. So that is one advice I would tell myself if I have to do it today. Yeah, make or break. Yeah, I would say when there's a decision to move, for instance, where you have to decide whether to continue with a client that probably is one of your main what do you where your big clients and all of that, and you discover that maybe there's a lot of abuse with them in terms of what they do and the structure, and you need to forego the the economic aspect of it because of your principles. I've had to do that severally, where I had to decide on the basis of upholding principles rather than what I would gain from the clients. I've had to do that severally. So I think those are each times, and most times when you have to make those decisions, uh, the economy was not very favorable. So at that point, I had to decide, look, if I lose this client, if I go away, I may need to find out how to survive in the next 3 months. And I've had to do that not once. There was a time that a client called, and this client is was based in the outer part, the eastern part of Nigeria, and that period was when they had this kidnapping and all kinds of funny things happening there. And the client called that they wanted us to do consulting and all of that. The client did not give us an advance to start or anything. I just knew that that day, against all reason, I just took whatever I had, went to the airport, even without knowing where they were. But I was like, I needed to do business, so I had to do that. And it was a risk because I could force myself to go there, but I couldn't force myself to come back. So it was like, if you go, you're on your own. And I took the risk. I traveled there. I could only pay my flight. And then the taxi from the airport, which is about to the location was about 3-4 hours. The 1 hour here, but to the location was about 3-4 hours from the airport. I could only find myself to the place where the client was, not knowing who the client was. And it was when I was getting to where I now said, oh, come, where is the place? And they now directed me. So at the time, and I had only one change of clothes, I didn't have extra. But when I had the opportunity to present before them what I could do for them, I had to wear that dress for 3 days. And I went there with, for instance, then ticket and everything was about maybe 50,000 naira, then several years back. And I came back with 9 figures in terms of business with a check. Incredible, you know. After presenting, they were so impressed. They called the whole board of directors, everything. I was a little comfortable because I was still wearing the same thing every day. But what I could say convinced them, and I came back a different person. Yeah, when there's alignment, where, for instance, people understand, because communication is critical. When we don't try to push just only what we think, what we believe is the right thing, is when we have consensus. You know, there's general consensus, and then everybody aligns with the vision. You know, like when you guys came, you know, there are people seated there. We had a meeting. We're supposed to handle a project somewhere in Guarimpa, far from here. You understand? So there's that consensus. So I've learned to do some to allow people's opinion and understand it. Because initially it was more of like my vision, my dream, everything. But currently, I don't think that way, because I think there must be consensus. If you don't have a buy-in, people may go with you, but it's just compliance. Along the way, you start to see a lot of lagging, and then you have this challenge trying to get people to come on board, and that is not good. So there must be agreement, because when there's no agreement, even though people follow you because of your authority, but you know, leadership is about influence, getting people to do what you want them to do without trying to force them. You're able to catch the vision, you understand, of where you're going. You know, if they don't have an idea of where you're going, that can actually hinder the outcome of the objective of the whole process. For Nigeria, because I'm based here in Nigeria, so let me speak from the point of Nigeria. The economy has played a major part in the issue of the development of the labor market. in several ways. You know, one, I discovered that apart from maybe firms that have the multinational backing or background or government-based organizations, most SMEs, have the challenge with funding. They're undercapitalized, so they are not able to pay good rates to those who can even offer the kind of skill and expertise they need. So currently, what is happening now is that a lot of companies now, I'm talking about the current situation, have to make do with what is available in the market. And the skilled hands are either leaving or getting remote jobs internationally. That's what's happening currently. So it's really affecting that in terms of our skill, the amount of available skills. Then that's why you see that currently those who seem to be thriving are those in the arts, entertainment, or sports arena. But in the real work, in terms of logistics and other things, the workforce is really underpaid. They pay now. What is 100,000 naira today? It can't really do much. But some firms struggle to pay 100,000 naira even today. So some firms, and most of the firms that you have are small and medium, micro sized firms, and those firms need a lot of support in terms of the kind of people that they need to work with to grow and scale. So if the economy would improve, I mean, when the economy improves, these firms would generate enough funds to pay those who work for them. So I think that in terms of the workforce in Nigeria, that is evolving. But the only issue now is that, like I heard someone say once, that there are not enough good hands in Nigeria in terms of, or employable people. It's not, I've been in this for 24 years, and honestly, currently, maybe in the sense that those who are employable are not even in the job market looking for jobs, because one, they get money through online gigs, they are doing other things, they have remote jobs. The ones that are available are those ones that don't even have access to those information. I think the policy I would even advocate, or I would advocate that government should improve or work on, should be that has to do with the support for SMEs. The tax system. The tax system is not encouraging a lot of companies to even, to grow easily, and we don't have a lot of incentives for businesses to grow in Nigeria. They're not so much. So you're struggling against so many things. You have to put your light. You have to buy. Power is a major problem, because that money spent on power, consumes a lot of money that would have used for other things, and then encourage policies that would encourage, patronizing Nigerian firms for projects. That can also be, I would like something in that area to be addressed, where we don't just give everything to foreigners. Like, I remember the road they were building between Lagos and is it Calabar or something? I believe that, like, if it's possible, they can engage more Nigerian companies in such things. Even though you are sourced internationally, this will encourage the Nigerian industry to grow. Even though many have not begun to observe it, is the, would I call it, proliferation of AI, particularly. Many are not really observant with what is happening with AI. Like, even in our work here now, we use AI a lot. There's a lot that has changed with AI, a lot. There's some books, again, that we don't need to even read because of AI. There's so much that's happening, and many are not even aware, what's going to happen. I predict that look at where we're even in Abuja. There are a lot of vehicles now that are using the electric vehicles, without even a policy on that in Nigeria yet. People are already setting up their own electrical charging stations without even a policy on that. So things are going to go very fast, faster than we can imagine. In the next 10 years, I predict that even in the next 5 years, I predict a lot of jobs will go. There was a time in Nigeria where you had what they call receptionists, and secretaries. What is secretaries that come and type? Those jobs are no more existing. So many jobs are going to go. And a lot of people are not observing that. The more our industries um, become more active, I I perceive that they would engage a lot of robots in production, robotic engineering. So these days, our schools should be careful about the kind of courses that they prepare or offer for our students, because if you don't prepare people well, you bring out people from school that don't have any skills. That's currently what's happening. They've gone to university, they studied, they have no skills, so they actually have to go and learn again. So in fact, as a matter of, and that's why a lot of them are doing the apprenticeship, which is what will help many now, because what you've even learned in school becomes unusable when you come out. Well, I think for me is my rabid and unequivocal pursuit for excellence. I and sometimes it can get out of hand and go into the area of being micromanaging, because I want things done. And for instance, in my office here, sometimes I work till, there's 2 days back, the security man, there's a security man we have here, we call him Papa. He's very old, almost 70 something. And he had to ask me, I hope your wife knows, is happy what you're doing, because I work every day. I work every day, even from in church on Sunday, I come to the office to work. So I think maybe I I would say I'm a workaholic, but I think that is something that people may not know. I love to work. I have this thing I do with youths, right? Where I try to mentor them. Seeing young men engage in things that would build them up. So I have a couple of young men that I try to mentor to push them to go far. So I think for me is people development. I do that even in church. I'm also involved in empowerment, because I teach children, and after that I have young people too that I mentor. So I think that for me gives me a lot of fulfillment, seeing people succeed, go further. I had this experience where I had a young man who had an accident that affected both of his hands. He could not do much, and I was able to um, encourage this young man, and I mentor him to the point that at the end of the day, after about 4 or 5 months with me, he was able to set up his own property business. And as I'm talking to you today, he's built his own house. And by the time he came to meet me, he was expecting me to help him get a job. And I said, nobody will employ you, because your two hands, you can't even use it well, you know. And I said, there's something you can do. And I started mentoring him in the area where I left, property, and from Kubwa. And from there, he became very good, and he even helped me to get the property one time. And today, he's built his own house in Lugbe and he's married with children. Identify your gift, develop it, and stay on it.